Hey, welcome to Inside the Teacher Studio. I'm your host, Monica Black, and today I have a very special guest who I've known for a lifetime. And so I'm going to go ahead and let him get his introduction on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lybroan James, not to be confused with the other one who also lives in LA. I'm the older, smarter one. I'll say that. Yeah, so facts, yeah. So I'm a former high school math teacher. I taught math, pre-calculus, and algebra 2 for 15 years at several schools in Los Angeles. And for the past 10 years, I've been an educational consultant, training teachers how to teach math to students of color around the country. And so just enjoying life and glad to be here, Monica. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to try something new. You told me what you do.
Yes.
And what you've done.
Yes.
I'm really loving to explore people's identity and having them really come out with, just put the teacher hat aside for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed the work of Dr. Sean Ginwright, who talks, are you familiar?
Yes.
Instead of trauma informed, he talks about healing informed. And so one of the things that I've done at one of his talks is an exercise I'd like to do with you really quickly. Okay. And I'm just going to ask this question over and over again for like a minute and see. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Who are you?
I'm a father.
Who are you?
I'm a son.
Who are you?
I'm a husband.
Who are you?
I'm a disruptor.
Who are you?
I'm a liberator.
Who are you?
I'm a friend.
Who are you?
I'm a child at heart.
Who are you?
I'm an optimist.
Who are you?
I'm a revolutionary.
Who are you?
I am a fraternity brother.
Who are you?
I'm compassionate.
Who are you?
I'm a visionary.
All right, thanks for that. Out if you want me to, but I love it because he does it for a really long time, like 3 minutes, and then you switch roles, and then you do the who are you, and I start answering the questions, right? And what's really cool is that it sometimes gets uncomfortable because it's like you literally go on and on and on and on and on.
Yes.
But it makes you dig and really think about who am I, as a person.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, the funny is I use the same activity when I train teachers, except I ask 3 questions. Who are you? Who do you pretend to be? And then who do you want to be?
Ooh, I love that.
10 times each. Oh man, I get people crying all the time.
Get out of here. So you ask the same question 10 times and then you go on to the next question 10 times.
Yes.
And then, oh, I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, it's hot in here. I'm gonna take off my glasses. So I think that identity is a really important piece in this whole game of life that we are trudging through. Well, some of us trudging, some of us are skipping, right? But it
or if you're Serena, you see walking through it, but I guess it's all good too.
Hello, whatever works. And I think that when you are clear on who you are and you embrace all of your lived experiences, that really impacts, those windows and mirrors, right? That we're looking in and through, right? And so I think that that's a really important piece of the work, and it impacts how we engage with others. It impacts how we read situations, right? So thank you for doing that. My first question to you is, when did you fall in love with education?
Well, it's really weird because when I was in college, when we were at UCLA, I had no intention on being a teacher or being in education. But you know how it is in the math department of being in UCLA, it was rough.
Right.
So I got in academic trouble. And my counselor said, I will help you get out of this academic trouble, LeBron, if you will be a teacher, because there's only like 5 or 6 Black math majors at UCLA. And he wanted to see more Black math teachers. So I said, well, I hate kids, I hate education, but I do need to graduate from UCLA. So whatever it takes. So after I graduated, I kept my promise and started teaching in South Central LA at a private Christian school called Price High School. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, they taught me for the first 3 years. I didn't teach them anything. And
Hello.
so, yeah, after a lot of crying and drinking, one day I just fell in love with teaching. Said, this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to do.
That is the best. Is there a moment, if there's one, pick your favorite,
Yes.
that made you think, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life?
You know, it was so many small moments, but it was watching kids learn. When I saw kids actually get it and then apply it, and then all teachers have that experience a couple years down the line where a kid will come back and say, you had this impact on my life. And so if I could tell teachers anything, I would be like, you know what? Your real payment is going to come later. You plant seeds. You don't even know what seeds you're planting. And then they come back later. So now I'm getting the harvest. I ran into students. I ran into a student at the airport. I ran into a former student at the UCLA USC game.
Right.
And they tell me the impact it had. I'll tell you one quick story. It's funny. So when I taught at Price High School, right? And so the pastor's son was in my class. And then years later, I went to a friend's wedding and he was the officiant at the wedding.
Oh, wow.
And right before he told everybody, okay, please stand so I can pronounce the man and wife. So when we stood up, he saw me. He's like, Mr. James.
Get out of here.
I was like, dude, finish the wedding. He's like, no, come up here. He's like, everybody, this is my high school math teacher, Mr.
Get out of here.
In the middle of the wedding, I was like, dude, I appreciate it. Much love. But go on, tell these people they married so they can go ahead and have the reception. So that was a crazy story.
That's hilarious. I mean, it's interesting because sometimes when I hear my name in public, I'm like, oh my God, who am I? Is it me? But I had one kid do that in the T-Mobile store. I hear she said, I know you. And I look up and I was like, oh my goodness. And this was one of those students that everyone else would sit there and say not so great things about, right? Like, or do the, when you hear her name, right?
Yes.
And of course, when you're the teacher that can teach and can build relationships, you're the one that they always give those students to, right? And I'm like, bring it, like I'll bring her, And so at the very beginning of the field trip, I was like, oh gosh, thank you so much for giving me, I can't relax on the field trip, right? And so I talked to her. I said, you know what? I almost said her name. I said, you know what? You have such amazing leadership abilities, and I totally see that in you and appreciate that. So I'm going to need your help. I'm like, I got a whole bunch of squirrely little kiddos, right? And I'm going to need you to help me keep them together. And so, she even had my number, everything. And it was all, I did not have to worry about it for the rest of the day. When I found out at the end of the field trip that our school had gotten in trouble, she wasn't a part of it. I was like, yes. So the fact that she saw me at that store, I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I love it. Tell me a little bit about your experiences as a young learner.
So as a young learner, so like in elementary school, I was probably that problem child, the one who was always talking and squirming around and stuff. So they would always call my mom. So they knew if Mrs. James came to the school, she either coming to whoop my butt or to cuss out a teacher. My mom only, because she didn't play when it came to education. It was only one of those two things. So, even though I was squirrely in the second grade, I had a second grade teacher who saw something in me, and she kept me after school, taught me how to read. Then she had me tested. They said I tested gifted. But then the crazy part is I was so immature. My mom held me back and made me repeat the second grade. So I was all jacked up. I'm like, Mom, these white people told me I was smart. Why do I got to repeat the second grade? She said, because your ass ain't mature enough. And I love it. Child. So I was like, oh. So my mom really knew. So I had this weird elementary experience. But what's really crazy is in the sixth grade, my dad sat me down and said, son, you have to be a mathematician. I was like, I hate math, Dad. Why do I have to be a mathematician? He was like, because you'll be the first person in this family that doesn't use a broom or a mop to make a living. You just use your mind. So
Wow.
from then on, he just had a rigorous program for me. So I did more math than everybody, and
Wow.
it paid off.
So it's interesting that your dad had that plan for you, and it
Yes,
wasn't your plan.
exactly. Sure wasn't.
Was math something that you struggled with, or was it just something that you had no interest in?
I kind of struggled in it, and I had no interest in it. So I struggled in it. And so what he made me do is, rather than doing the odd problems, he made me do all the problems. And when
Okay.
it was on chapter 4, I had to read chapter 5. So the 3 years, I really struggled. Like I couldn't stand my dad. And all of a sudden, it opened up, and then I could see math. So I realized, oh, I couldn't see math. Not that I couldn't do it. I couldn't see it. Once I learned how to see it, then everything opened up, and it was all good. I was like, man, that's why I tell people, it's not that you can't do math, you just don't see it yet.
And I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we hit them with these books that show the algorithm way before they ever make sense of math. And
Yep.
so, I tell my teachers, my parents this all the time. We just had a math workshop on Saturday at Saturday school.
Mhm.
And, a lot of the ways in which textbooks have students record their thinking is almost formulaic, and that becomes the learning as opposed to the concept itself. For example, I know you've seen number bonds. Are you familiar?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so number bonds, for those of you who don't know, there's a circle at the top. There's two lines coming diagonally off that circle and two more smaller circles. And basically, it's one way of recording decomposing numbers and composing numbers, right? Depending on how you want to flip that little picture, right? And so, the important part of that is part-whole thinking. It's being able to decompose numbers in ways that make sense to you, because when you do that and you break it down into smaller problems that you can access, then all of a sudden, these big, huge problems aren't as big of a problem anymore. Right. And what Lybroan was talking about seeing numbers and seeing math and seeing things, a lot of the times that concreteness of that breaking apart, right, are not evident. And so, we focus on the teaching kids how to fill in that little triangle, right?
Mhm.
And they don't even know why they're doing it, right? And so I think that's really important what you just said, that when your father was supporting you, that you finally saw the math. Was there something that in those experiences, besides doing the extra problems and going ahead, that helped you visualize the abstractness of our number system?
Yeah, what probably helped me the most was community, actually. And so I was always taught that you study alone, you do your homework alone. Then in the 7th grade, I met my best friend, Roy, and he had 3 other brothers. So Roy's Filipinos, he come from a Filipino family. So I'm the honorary 5th Filipino brother. And so I would go to their house, the mom would make food and we sit around the table and do math. And I was like, wow, by talking and sharing problems and sharing ideas, that's when I was able to understand concepts, because I wasn't using my brain. It was like 4 or 5 brains. Like, man, no one taught me this. They told me to play basketball in a group. They told me to play baseball, but never told me to study with a team.
Right.
So that's the part, that community part, and talking really helped me the most.
I think that's huge. Just the collaboration and the communication piece is something that we as educators weren't taught exactly, right? Or we learned it when we were trying to just get the job. And so we didn't know why we were doing that, right? And now in retrospect, I'm like, that's why they taught me that, right? I think it's really important. First of all, for those of you who don't know, Lybroan and I are both from San Diego. We did not know each other before UCLA.
Whoa.
That San Diego connection is definitely there. And I am Filipino. So every time I see anything Filipino, I send it to him, because I know he was the honorary Filipino in the family. So let's see. Who is your favorite teacher and why?
My favorite teacher was my high school physics teacher. And she did an amazing, amazing job of holding me to a high expectation. So she held me to a high expectation. And then she was the teacher who ran the MESA program. And so she actually would bring in people from the community who had actually done things. And I remember she brought in a guest speaker a Black man who created the trolley system in San Diego. And I was like, wow, I didn't think brothers could do that. And so she always held really high expectations of me. So she was always my favorite teacher. In fact, when I graduated from Harvard, we had to pick one teacher to give an honorary Harvard degree to. So I sent it to her.
Got it. Oh, I love it. I love it. Who or what? I think you kind of already addressed this, but what brought you to the profession? Besides, you needed to get out of UCLA.
Yeah. It was just that I got tired of seeing the negative stereotypes about what we can do, what we can't do. So I'm like, I want to have impact. How can I have an impact? So I forget, someone had a saying like, if you want to save a community, you can't repair an old man. You got to invest in the child. I can't remember the exact quote, but I'm like, kids, I've had my time in school, but these kids, they only get third grade once. They only get fifth grade once.
Right.
I want to be able to be someone who could have an impact and sort of drop some crumbs so kids can have to whatever dreams that they want to pursue.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the person you're referring to, but I have a cup that has that very saying on it, and it was Frederick Douglass who said,
yes,
and I'm going to butcher this, but it's easier to teach young boys than to repair grown men.
Grown men, there you go.
Men, whatever it is.
Yeah,
it's absolutely one of my favorite. I got that while I was in Memphis at the museum at the Lorraine Motel.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anyway, I got that there, and I was like, the National Civil Rights Museum. That's what.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Anyway, so I know that this is some intel I have or inside information that I have, but I know that you've taken some time away from education. You took a little bit of a break from education.
Yes.
And we also know that, especially right now, right? We have a lot of hurdles and challenges or things just being thrown at us, right? All kinds of obstacles, as if we didn't have enough already, right?
Yes.
What keeps you here, or what brought you back to the profession?
Yeah, so I taught for 10 years, and then I really got sick and tired of kids saying, I hate math. I hate math. I was like, I'm sick. If I hear this one more time. So my 10th year, I just got burnt out. And so, me, I always keep it real. So I was like, God, give me a sign to let me know if I should stay another year or leave. So I always talk trash to my students. So I was teaching at the school, and someone forgot their homework, said, you test tube baby, you better do your homework on time. And then she started crying and she left the room. I was like, I call everybody a test tube baby. What's the problem? They go, LeBron, she really is a test tube baby. I was oh my God. So the principal called me in. I had to talk, apologize. I was like, God, thanks for the sign. On that one, I'm out. So I left after that year. And so then I said, I need to try something different. So I did real estate for 8 years. So real estate investment, I started an appraisal company. So I made a lot of money, but I still wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. I was like, this is cool, but I'm not fulfilled. I'm not impacting anybody's lives.
Right.
And so that's what, after doing that for 5 or 6 years, then I said, I got to get back to the classroom.
Nice. And through all of the ups and downs and challenges over the years, what gets you through? What keeps you coming back every day?
Yeah, what keeps me coming back is, first, my sons, so having my sons and seeing their experience, I'm like, man, I see every day what they went through growing up and the teachers they had and the experiences. And so I'm like, I need to make sure not only can I support my sons, but there's other sons out there, other daughters out there who may not even have a father, or who may not have someone who's a positive role model, or someone just to say, you know what, I believe in you. And so to me, that's our job. Our job is to infuse hope, to help kids dream and give them a pathway to achieve their dreams. So I can't think any other work better than this work.
I love it. Tell me about your current role, or tell us about your current role. What is your day job?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I thought teaching was challenging. Working with teachers, training teachers is even more challenging, but also rewarding.
Hmm.
So I train teachers, like I said, to teach math. So I do professional development, I do coaching, and I use a lot of tools such as AI to help teachers really become proficient and effective at what they do. So it's really fulfilling traveling around the country because
Hmm.
I'm in hundreds of classrooms working with hundreds of teachers. So I see the patterns of
Right.
what's happening in education. So
Right.
I just try to do my part to help them out as much as I can.
Yeah, I always enjoyed being in a consulting role because
Mhm.
it allowed me to see that there are patterns in
Yes.
no matter what kind of uh, district you're in,
Mhm.
even within a district, no matter what community you're in, it's
Yes.
still the same challenges, the same questions, the same not being happy with their current situation that I think led us to what we now really work on, which is the social emotional learning of the adult learners as well, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, most definitely.
So I know that I've seen you at a conference talking about that subject. Can you share anything about that?
Yeah, so after about 15 years ago, I realized that everyone I talked to had a strong emotional response to mathematics.
Mm,
Most people hated it, had fear, anxiety, and a few nerds like us really loved it. So I said, you know what? Math is emotional.
yeah,
So I realized how you feel is how you learn. And for teachers, what they feel is how they teach. And
right.
so that's what I use every time I'm working with teachers. I always get to the emotional part first.
Yep.
What I realized is that, like in elementary school teachers, they have great social emotional skills. They connect with kids, create learning environments, but they don't have deep content knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel anxiety or they feel inferior because they don't know the content at a deep level. So they keep it very surface for the kids so they feel comfortable and kids don't get a deep understanding of math. Then you get to middle school and high school, they have deep content knowledge, but they can't create a relationship.
Right.
Nothing.
Can we get a meeting, please, somewhere in the middle?
Exactly. So I'm always working with one side or the other. I'm either working above the neck, people who know the content knowledge, or below the neck, social emotional skills.
Right.
It's always trying to find that balance. That's algebra. Always looking for the balance.
Right. Right. Who I I love how I've seen um your, I guess, journey as a math teacher, math educator.
Yes.
Like, it moved over the years, right? Who
Hmm.
are your main influences in where you are today in education, specifically math education and in the SEL space?
Yeah. Well, there's so many people. I remember I studied um what's my man's name? Danny Martin out of Chicago, who wrote the book Brilliance of Black Children in Mathematics.
Wow.
You know,
I need to get that one. What is it called?
yes, it's called The Brilliance of Black Children in Mathematics by Danny Martin. And so I heard him speaking. I'm like, wow, you really understand, like, there's genius in every child. But, no one starts from that premise,
Right.
and then there's been, tons of other teachers like Gloria Ladson Billing, looking at her work. And so, Pedro Noguera. I mean, there's so many people, but the one that had probably the biggest impact is when I was in grad school, I had to read this book called Courageous Conversations About Race by Glenn Singleton. And that one really changed my whole lens on education because I had to reflect and be introspective first to
Hmm.
realize, why am I doing this work? And I was like, oh my goodness, it was a powerful lesson, and it transformed the way I see myself and the way I educate. And then the best part was I come to find out that Glenn Singleton was my fraternity brother. So
I didn't know that.
yes, yes. So me and Glenn, we hang out all the time. Yeah, he's my dude.
That's so interesting and timely because I recently found out about all these PD offerings out of Cal, and
Mhm.
of course I went and signed up for a lot of them because I can't stop learning.
Right.
And one of them was an intro to courageous conversations, and I just started laughing because it's today. It's this afternoon. And I'm telling you, the timing of everything around this interview has been very interesting. But I was introduced to Glenn Singleton through a program that you spearheaded called Milo. And so I'm laughing because I'm like, do I need to go to this? Because I already know what courageous conversations are.
Yes, exactly.
But I'm going to go anyway because, you know, you always pick up something new every time, every iteration, right?
Exactly.
So I want to step away from just your day job, your teaching, all of that. And I want you to think about life in general. What brings you joy?
What brings me joy really is waking up every day knowing that I'm living the life I designed. So I live life intentionally. So like I intentionally married the woman of my dreams.
Nice.
I intentionally have the sons I've always dreamed of. I intentionally do a job where I create stuff out of thin air and people pay me for it.
Right.
I don't have a boss. So it's that kind of freedom. Like I can say what I want to say because I don't have a boss. I don't have to report to anybody. So that freedom is what brings me joy.
Oh, I want to be like you when I grow up. You've been trying to get me out there for the longest.
Yes, you know, I'm gonna still get you out here. Don't worry.
I'm stubborn. And see this shirt. You said you were a disruptor.
Yes, there you go. I love it.
I disrupt deficit narratives for a living, and I need to do it within myself. So for those who don't know, Inside the Teacher Studio is really about celebrating the artistry and creativity of educators. And that's not necessarily literally like, oh, I paint, I draw, I sculpt. It's really thinking about how can I be creative in how I approach this thing that I do for a living, right? I run into one wall after another. I run into, like, the wall could be exhaustion. The wall could be my paycheck. The wall could be, you know, some rule. The wall is always the system that was meant to oppress. I always love to hear how teachers kind of fly under the radar and still get what they need to do to disrupt, to offer up a different perspective, and in ways that they still can keep their job. Let me tell you, I haven't always been successful at that. So tell me about a time when you demonstrated artistry in your craft.
You know, I am unapologetically who I am in my work. And so I always said,
down to the test tube, baby.
Down to the test tube, baby. I tell kids, like, when I teach PEMDAS, I said, what does PEMDAS mean? They said, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I said, no, you need the Black version.
Right.
Please excuse my dumbass students. That's what PEMDAS really stands for. So
wait, you did this with your kids?
With my students, yes. Because I'm 100 with my students at all times.
Right.
Because kids want authenticity. If you are real, they'll learn from you. If they feel like you're a fake or a fraud, they check out.
Right.
So for me, I had to make a decision. Like, either I'm going to be authentic and get results, or I'm going to toe the line that the school wants me to toe.
Right.
And like, that's just not the kind of person I am. That's why I switch schools every 3 or 4 years. They're like, LeBron, enough of your antics. You got to go.
You got
no problem.
Right.
Somebody else will take these antics.
Hello. Let me tell you, there's that, because I've had I've had situations that did not appreciate my gifts.
Yes. Well put.
So we parted ways. And, you know, after doing that 2 times in a row, I was really knocked down on my behind, because I was like, doing this work doesn't feel safe a lot of the time. And in fact, I'm going to have an episode coming up where we're talking about creating brave spaces, not a safe space, but a brave space.
Brave space.
Which goes right along with courageous conversations, right?
Yes.
So, you know, it's one of those things that I finally like flipped it and reframed it. And I was like, that's okay. I got these skills that I'm gonna land somewhere. And those people will be lucky to have me, right? And so I finally found a place that I absolutely love, where I am currently. So one other thing that I think is a pattern that I see is whenever I've recently, as an adult, come to embrace and and claim my own superpowers, right?
Yes.
What I find that a lot of adults don't know what that means. Like they don't know what their superpower is. So I'm going to ask you, LeBron, what's your superpower? Because I know you're Mathman, so Mathman's got to have some superpowers.
Yes, that's interesting. You know, when I train teachers, that's one of the first questions I ask them is, what is your superpower? But teachers are reluctant to share or identify what their superpower is. I'm like, every teacher has a superpower. And, you know, so for me, now you got me on the other side of the table here. My superpower is I can teach algebra to anybody on planet Earth. I can teach algebra to anybody. And like, algebra is my specialty. So you can give me a kid 3rd grade, 5th grade, never done math, from the Ozarks, from the hood. I don't care. I can teach algebra to anybody. That's my superpower.
I don't know if I told you about this, but I taught algebra to high school students for the first time last summer.
What?
I did a credit recovery class at McClymonds High School. Okay. And at first I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, what makes you think that I can do this? In fact, the person who tried to bring me on, I call her work wife, and I'm wondering when she's going to come on.
Right.
Work wife called me one day and she's like, I need you to teach summer school. And I was like, what? And she's like, I'm like, I don't teach high school. And she said, I've always taught I've taught up to 8th grade. And then, you know, she's always pulled in all of her people that we all worked with at Monterey Middle School in summer school now that she's an administrator there. And she first, it was like, I need you to teach geometry. I was like, what? Geometry? Like, talk about affective filter through the roof, because that was the first time in math that I started to struggle, right? I was like, back then it was all about 2-column proofs, again, all about rules, and applying them in a certain order without any kind of understanding about the concept or even looking right at the figures that you want me to do a proof about. So I freak out every time anybody says geometry. And then teach geometry? Absolutely not. And she's like, but there's only gonna be like 3 kids. I don't care. I don't want to teach geometry. I said, how about an algebra 1 class? And she's like, okay, I'll do that, and I'll make the other person teach geometry.
There you go.
Like, thank you very much. Anyway, so I am so appreciative of all of my learning experiences. Like I said, I can't ever get enough. I've been a part of a lot of trainings when I became an instructional coach for math in LA Unified School District, because there used to be a collaboration between LAUSD and UCLA. And so that was called Lucy Math. And that was really where my first mirror of, oh, you're not as strong of a mathematician as you thought, right? And that's where I became like really passionate about math education. We'll talk about that another day. And I also used to go to, and then I became a facilitator of a lot of UCLA math projects. Math project. And through that, I got so many wonderful resources that I then kept in my toolbox. Even though I didn't teach high school, and I didn't teach algebra, I had these great resources. So anyway, I said yes. I agreed to teach summer school, but I also was scared. Like, how are you supposed to get a credit recovery of 2 semesters of algebra 1? So basically, algebra 1A and B. In 4 weeks.
Doing the impossible.
What? Anyway. So I just did what I did. And, you know, it was really interesting at the end. We had a celebration of learning, and I was taking pictures of the kiddos all through this, right? And I also interviewed them, and they had little clips and things like that. And so I was ready when she said, we have a celebration of learning. So I put together a reel, and I put it to They Not Like Us, of course.
Oh, there you go. That's Monica.
So as soon as this came on in the celebration, all the kids were like, they looked up, they're like, wait, at first they were like, math? And then all of a sudden they were grooving, right?
Yes.
I just was cracking up in the back like, yup. And it's really interesting because one of my students came to me and said, you need to teach here. And I was like, what? You know, high school kids, they're on their phones, they're tuned out, they're like not paying attention. I mean, I had to be like, okay, guys, I get it. And I need you to focus for a minute because we need to get through. We need to learn some math.
Okay.
Anyway, he goes, and so I told him, I said, it didn't seem like you guys were engaged, like you weren't interested.
Mhm.
And he's like, it might have seemed that way, but we totally were learning. He's like, I've never learned math like I've learned with you. And so you need to come work here in McLean.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
I love it. I love
I
it.
can't do the high school kids, but I'd be happy to work with. So that's my superpower, is that number one, I speak dreams into existence. So I need to
Yes.
speak that my own math ed company into existence.
There you go.
And I am a continuous learner. And through that, I become even more humble about what I don't know, right?
Man, I'm telling you.
So as we close today,
Mhm.
I want to, number one, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, share. And I want to ask Mr. James, are there any projects that you have that you wanted to maybe give us a heads up about? Because I know you're coming back, because we have to talk all things math ed.
Yes, we do. We do. We do. I appreciate you having me on your show today. This has been fantastic. Right now, I'm teaching a pre-calculus course this summer at USC.
Oh, wow.
Through a program. And then I'm also working with a group of mathematicians to create an AI math tutor bot for kids, to create some equity and sort of disrupt the tutor industry,
Got it.
to put it kindly. So stay tuned for some Black AI math coming down.
Look at you
coming down the pipe.
disrupting. You know what? I love it. You're disrupting one of your own personal spaces, right? Because I know that
Yes.
you've been a tutor before, but I love how you're like, you know what? Why am I fighting this? Embrace it
Embrace it.
and use it, right?
Right. Because
Right.
think about it this way. I was like, okay, look, I charge $150 an hour to tutor. So there's only a few kids, usually private school kids or celebrities, that I could service.
Right.
But there's millions of kids who look like me who need my service. So how do you give high quality instruction for a low price? You have to use technology.
I
So
love that.
I'm embracing that. I've been like you said, I'm a lifelong learner. I took a prompt engineering course about a year ago
Wow.
to learn how to really turn myself into an avatar and digitize my crazy Black self.
Look out, world. If you thought the real LeBron James was a handful, just wait. So if somebody has heard something they want to follow up with you on a little bit more, or they want to engage you and contract you for your services, where can they get a hold of you?
Well, one, you can find me on LinkedIn, but two, my email address is ljames@stimulate.org. That's STEMULATE.org. ljames@stimulate.org. Thank you so much, Monica. I appreciate that.
No worries. Okay, so we're not quite done.
Yeah.
At the end of every conversation, there's some questions that I ask that are totally like not really necessarily in the education space, but it could be.
Okay.
And these questions were born out of, or were inspired by, or straight taken from
Thank you.
questions that the host of Inside the Actors Studio asked at the end of his interviews. And so I always loved all the responses that he got. And so I have incorporated that into Inside the Teacher Studio.
I love it.
So you're ready. And again, not that I think that you would ever say no to any of these questions, but if you'd like to, you can say, I'm not going to answer that. So LeBron, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word. Wow. My favorite word is yes.
Oh, perfect. What is your least favorite word?
I would say equity.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Oh my goodness, it's playing golf. It combines all of those things.
Wow, how's that golf game going?
Ooh, I'm not exactly Tiger Woods. I'm more like Inglewoods, but I'm working on it.
I can't. Did you play any sports younger coming up?
Baseball. Yeah.
I was just about to say it's a whole different swing.
Whole different swing. Yes.
Right.
And the ball's not moving and you still can't hit the damn thing, but that's my problem.
Oh my God, I can't. What turns you off?
Wow. Not a lot of things. I would say probably ignorance. Ignorance really turns me off. I love to talk to anybody as long as they know how to think. If you could think, I'm with you, even if we disagree.
So what's your favorite curse word?
Mother.
I love how
Mother
you
function. Mother function.
leave it to you to find a way to make it acceptable in the math space.
There you go.
I'm gonna have to use that one. That also seems to be a theme that goes through all of our educators' answers in this to this question.
Okay.
What sound or noise do you love?
My alarm, when it wakes me up in the morning, it lets me know I'm still on this side of the grass.
You know what? That's a reframe I'm going to start to use. What sound or noise do you hate?
Ooh, wow. You know what? I hate the sound of bells in schools.
And some of them are uglier than others.
Ooh, I know, because it trains people to be sort of not like cattle, like a cattle call. So when I worked at private schools, we had no bells. I was like, oh, wow, you're
Really?
teaching free thinking. Interesting. So your bells have a negative connotation for me in schools.
So interesting. So how did transitions happen?
You just had to know when class was over.
Oh.
Imagine that.
So when class was over and kids got up out of their seats and you weren't one of those people that was like, I didn't dismiss you.
No. So you develop a rhythm.
Yeah.
Like either I'll recognize it or the kids will recognize it, like, oh, LeBron, we're done. I'm like, okay, give me 30 more seconds to wrap this up. But no bells. It just changed my whole way of looking at school.
So it can be done. Look at
Yes.
that. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Probably an air traffic controller.
What?
Did you know that
Talk about random.
Yes, because air traffic controlling is the only profession that makes more decisions per day than a school teacher.
Interesting. And you want more of that? I want less. I want to wave the kids down the water slide and
Right, there you go.
Exotic location. Anyway, what profession would you not like to do?
Oh my God, there's so many. I would not like to be the person that drives and picks up the trash, and the people, the trash collector, they stick the arm out and grab the thing and put it back in. It's too repetitive. I need some variety in my life.
Yeah, there'd be trash on the street.
Yes, there would be.
I'd be doing something crazy to challenge the way we do things.
There you go. You'd be on the wrong side of the
forever
street.
Disrupting. There's got to be a better way. Anyway, last question. If an afterlife exists, what would you like to hear your maker say when you arrive?
Man, I would like my maker to say, LeBron, job well done.
Another thread that I've seen all throughout our educators' interviews. So I really want to thank you for coming on. I don't know what took so long for you to come on to Inside the Teacher Studio.
I'm glad I'm finally here.
I mean, and I'm hoping this isn't your last. I know that you have a book in the works. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So when and where you feel comfortable coming back, just you know where to get a hold of me.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I definitely look forward to coming back for sure, Monica. You know that.
Thank you so much, LeBron. Until next time, everyone, this is Monica Black for Inside the Teacher Studio.